surges roll on my tempest-driven soul. I am peaceful, for I know, wildly though the winds may blow.
I want to thank Dr. Neufeld for this honor, and also the board at PRBI for giving me this great honor, but also want to congratulate the students who are graduating today. And it doesn't seem that long ago that I was where you are. Very uncertain about the future, but I do remember that way back then God gave me a verse from Revelation 3:7 that says, when He opens the door, no one can close it. And I think as I look at the Muslim world today, that in some ways, when God opens the doors to Muslims, no one can close it. It doesn't matter what happens. But in a personal sense, I want to talk a little bit about some of the doors God has opened for me. First of all, how He got me to PRBI in the first place, and then some of the memories I have of the school, and lastly, what my wife Carol and I have been doing ever since we left.
Shock, for my anchor grips the rock.
I think back, first of all, to the foundational work in missions of Eaglesham, where I was born, not too far from PRBI, and Mr. McNaughton. My parents used to tell me about him and his work there, gospel work, in the whole piece, but specifically in Eaglesham. And partly through his ministry, my parents were saved, came to Christ just before I was born in 1944. And as far back as I can remember, my parents, we would pray for missionaries, and sometimes they would stay with us in the old log house there on the farm in Eaglesham. But there was a verse, a motto in our house that really impacted me. It was, only one life will soon be past, only what's done for Christ will last. And that was the same motto at Prairie Bible Institute, where I spent a couple of years in high school. And so there too, seeds were planted for mission work.
And it holds
After PBI, coming to PRBI was sort of a logical step, but I'm still surprised when I think back of it that this blonde kid from Eaglesham showed up for Bible school. It was a time of preparation for both my wife and I at PRBI, where we were in the Word and studying, but not much happened really as far as missions is concerned until my final year, when I was graduating, 1965. I remember giving my testimony, as was the custom then, over the CFGP in Grand Prairie under the direction of Mr. Gertz, who was the teacher of doctrine at the school. I can remember saying that as far as I was concerned, the most important thing I could do with my life was to preach the gospel, minister the gospel to those who have never heard. And then in that same year, at the spring conference, seemed like God strengthened the call, because during the missions conference in 1965, one of the speakers, a fellow by the name of Alvin Douglas, he imitated a call from hell, and that it showed me how urgent the spread of the gospel was.
an anchor that shall hold.
My wife and I spent a little bit of time on the staff at PRBI, and then in the mid-60s, of course, after I graduated, we left for Pakistan in 1968, but we were totally not prepared for what was to come. We'd never met a Muslim. I'd never taken a course on Islam and the heat and the filth and the antagonism of the gospel. We were just not prepared for it. But being from the farm in Western Canada, both of us, helped us. But more importantly, I think we learned to study the Word, to feed ourselves at PBI and particularly to PRBI. And then every morning in Pakistan, I would listen to Back to the Bible broadcast at 6:30 shortwave from Sri Lanka, and heard great speakers like Warren Wiersbe and other teachers. But Pakistan has always been a troubling place, very unsettled, and today I think it may have more terrorists per square mile than any place on earth. Nevertheless, God gave us a great love for the Pakistanis. I had a book room I opened, a reading room, and Muslims would come by, and those who were open to it, I would give them some Christian literature.
And the tempest rises high, still I stand the tempest shock.
But then in 1990, I started having trouble with my visa, and I was falsely accused of spying on the nuclear facilities, and fought long and hard to stay in the country, but lost, and we were kicked out in 1991. We sort of roamed around for a while, and but God gave me opportunity to study under some great evangelical scholars of Islam. All the time I was praying in the 90s, mid-90s, what would happen after this, and would God give me another opportunity to help train and teach people for Muslim work. But that's really what I wanted. And I think God was preparing us for Columbia International University, and because that's a school where we're still at, that trains missionaries and ministers. That's where we've been for the last 14 years. And for 7 of those years, I've been the director of the Zweimer Center for Muslim Studies. The Zweimer Center has a mission to train Great Commission people to make disciples among Muslims. And we take that from a fellow by the name of Samuel Zweimer. I think was the greatest missionary that North America has ever sent out to the Muslim world. 100 years ago, he went to the places that are very much in the news now, Bahrain and Egypt, and he started ministering to Muslims. He didn't see many converts himself, but he inspired others, including me. And today we have students coming and learning how to minister to the gospel. As I think of you graduates, I believe that God will open doors for you, just like He has for me, if you're willing and to do His will. Because that's what He really has done for us for the last 46 years. I wish you God's blessing in everything you do.
Troubles almost round the soul, griefs like billows o'er me roll. Tempters seek to lure astray, storms obscure the light of day. But in Christ I can be bold, I've an anchor that shall hold. I've an anchor that shall hold. I have an anchor that shall